I want to ask all of you at this Zemen or Ender frame. Do you guys have children? Because if you
Me,
do,
Yes,
I
I
have a
have.
this will
daughter.
be so much easier.
Yes, I have.
For me personally, I won't do that. I won't spank my kids. I'll try to be like open-minded person. I'll communicate with my kids. I'll believe in conversation. So I don't think I'm gonna do that. It's not fair.
I will not spank my kid. First of all, imagine you said an imaginary question, right? Imagine it was the same mistake was done by your older brother or your older sister. You will never ever raise your hand on them because the only reason we spank kids is because they're smaller than us physically. If they got big enough, we won't even raise our hands. The same mistake or the worse mistake than that can be done by adults, and we'll just be like, what's wrong with you, and pass on. Actually, when parents spank the kids, it's because they feel hurt and they want to be respected. It's not even about the kid anymore. It's like, oh, I'm trying to correct you. I'm trying to show you the right way. I want to show you that you can't do this anymore. Raising your voice is more than enough. Not showing your eyes to them is more than enough because kids want acceptance. Kids want uh, to be known, let alone physically hit them. Your mom can make the same mistake. Would you ever hit your mom? You'll never hit your mom because she's big physically. And if your kid is 18, you'll never hit him because he'll hit you back. So any physical reaction, any physical action is done by the bully and the bullier or the guy who is bullying, I believe. So physical contact with your own kid is the ultimate weakness for me. I rest my case.
For me, it's easy. I don't. I think, for me, it's a kind of violence, violence, physical violence for the child. Um, any kind of physical violence can't come from love. If you love your children, that means, for me, that means you protect them from any kind of pain as much as possible.
Yep.
So doing that on themselves, it's beyond my imagination. I have been spanked so many times in my childhood, and I don't want that to happen to other people. It is like a trauma. You can feel when someone is spanking you. You can feel for that moment. I can't feel their love for me. I can't. It is anger. It's all the negative emotions. Anger. It's like they feel like they are controlling me. Because I was their their child. Of course, right now I'm also their child. They feel like they are controlling me. It's all the negative emotions. It is the opposite of love. So I think for children, they deserve to be loved unconditionally, without any kind of okay.
Fine.
If I do bad things,
Yeah,
they need to
okay.
love me. If I was bad, if I do for both, for the bad and for the good, they need to love me. If
There is
you
other way
experienced
to.
it, you can feel the hatred. For that moment, you can feel the hatred and the power.
There is other thing
Okay, can hear.
besides
Okay, go
Okay,
on,
abusing to
please.
panic
Alice.
children. So instead of like spanking the kids, you can take what they like, and then you can teach them a lesson instead of like giving them hard time, like being rough to your children. There is a ways that you can teach them. I don't think it's like right to hit a child. Like like the guy was saying, they're harmless. They won't defend themselves. You cannot go physically and attack them. It's not right. But I know that these children are spoiled, but there is a way that you can control that. You have to be smart, and then you have to know what your daughter love. For example, if she made something, if she made some mistakes, you're gonna tell her that she's not gonna get that. So if she's not
Yeah.
gonna get that because she wants to get it, for sure she's gonna stop doing what she's doing. Just to get something, she have to know she have to do the right thing. You know? What do you think? So what you're saying is, if my daughter or my son did something like you said, burn my house to the ground, I'm gonna get emotional, obviously, but it depends on your personality. There are things, there are peoples like older peoples than you, and then they will get you upset, they will make you bad. So in that point, if you're gonna get upset, if you're gonna hit that person, it depends. That is who you are. But a child is always a child. You know, he didn't mean to do that. Obviously, if we burn the house to the ground, he didn't mean to do that. I'm not gonna harm him. Maybe if he's a teenager or something, if I have to teach him, I will teach him the way. I'll try the way I can handle. But if it's out of my hand, you know, I'll involve people's instead of hurting that child or that kid. That's how I feel, Ninja. I cannot spank a kid, especially my own kid. My dad and my mom, they were the strictest parents ever. They were serious on everything. But if I did something wrong, you know what my dad always do? He won't talk to me for a week. So every time if I have to eat dinner, I'm not gonna be in the living room. Just gonna stay in my room and eat so that I won't see his eyes. He never spanked me. He never put his hands on me. Just a fear of that. If I did these things today, I know he's not gonna talk to me. Like, this is the hardest thing a person can do to you.
Okay, I have a
Mhm.
question for Addis. Can
Mhm.
I?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we are talking about physical violence,
Mhm.
and there is also another kind of violence, right? For
Mhm.
example,
Yes.
silent treatment is also a kind of violence, right?
Yes. Mhm.
So what do you think about that? Do you think that
About
is
that,
a good kind of, yeah,
for me, it
a good
works. You
kind
know
of
what happened?
punishment? Okay.
Punishment, very good kind of. Because for me, it worked. He will give me a time to think, what did I do? What did I do to deserve this? You get it? And then I'll go to the point that I'm wrong or I'm right. If I'm right, after like a week, Mnaman, when he starts talking to me, I'll explain. Indeed, why are you doing this? Because what I did was not a wrong thing. You get it? I will go through the conversation. But if he's the kind of person who's gonna hit me, I won't even have a chance to speak to him. It's gonna
Yeah,
bring this kind of
that,
image of him. I'll be scared.
yeah.
So, and for
Okay.
me, it works like
Yeah,
that.
it is better. I mean, you're right. It's better from the other one, for the physical violence. That is the extreme one. Uh, Even for this one, you don't feel abandoned by your dad at that time
By the moment I
when
did,
he's
by the moment back
your
then, obviously,
yeah.
like all the time.
Okay.
You get it?
Yeah.
When there's the time he's not talking to me,
Yeah.
I will feel like abandoned, sad, unloved.
Yeah.
But now, when
So
you
is
grow up,
that
you realize things. And now, by
okay?
this time, if you're gonna make me choose, if my dad used to spank me rather than not speaking to me, I'd prefer the old one, what he used to
The
do
old
to me.
one.
You get it? Mm-hmm.
Ah, okay. Okay,
Not,
I
yeah,
understand.
I'll prefer that. Because child are
Mm,
like, it's like a blank paper. You get it? They will learn from you.
mm,
You're the one who's teaching them. If you're gonna spank your kids, you're teaching them to be violent. Tomorrow, if she come fighting with somebody, if she's gonna come and tell you, Mama, I did this, I had a fight with this person, what are you gonna say? No, this is
mm,
not right. You're doing that to her, Gabash.
mm.
I don't
Yeah.
think, Ninja.
There's a point raised in the comment section, and it is from Zamanu Dasi. He said punishment versus violence. So I feel like he's saying that children should be punished when they did something wrong. So, Abikab, what is the difference between punishing a child and being violent?
Very, very fine line. There's a very fine line, a thin line between punishment and violence. That thing that the earlier the girl was talking about, like how her dad used to be quiet for a week and she thinks about what she did and they talk about it. That's not really punishment if that gap is shorter. But what is punishment? Violence is actually like, like acting physically on the other person. It can be emotionally too. It can be, like it can like stop making them use certain things in the house, or say don't go out of your room, or certain things like that. But what is the value of the punishment? What is the value of the punishment? What is the end goal? Is it for the person to learn from what they did and actually self-reflect, shadow work, and see what they did wrong? Or is it because you're just mad, you can't control yourself, you let them go? I feel like there's a fine line, but the words are totally different. I cannot call violence punishment or vice versa. But when parents are concerned, and when this third world or Ethiopia or country or culture is concerned, or even religion sometimes is concerned, that line is so thin between violence and punishment. Because, like, hey, beating your child with a belt, that's pure violence. But we call it punishment. So that's the confusing line for me. I don't know if my idea was clear. It's a thin
Yeah.
line.
As you said, my concern or question were the difference between violence and punishment. As he said, he tried to put the definition, but as he said, they are nearly equally meaning, except there is a thin line between punishment and violence. I don't know in which context you are talking, but at least we are Ethiopians, so we have to consider the Ethiopians' culture and context. Even we can apply it in different way. Traditional way of counseling, or whatever we try to punish our daughter or son with the physical, you may consider it as a harassment, but from our context, from our culture, it is one way of letting the child to take a lesson or learn from what he did or what she did. Counseling by itself or advice by itself cannot be enough. We can apply both. When we use the physical things, we will tell them this is a traditional way of teaching a child, and sometimes we may give them the alternative. Which method or which punishment do you like, the traditional or the modern one? He may ask you if he's able to talk, but when unable to talk, you can show him or show her. So my view is better to use both. Counseling alone cannot be enough, or punishment, as he said, cannot be enough. So we can use both the traditional way of teaching children and the modern one parallelly. What do you say?